All right, welcome to my Colorado Tesla Experience channel. Apologies, I haven't done a video in quite a while. Mostly I've just been busy in life and work, and I've been kind of just enjoying the Tesla. Like, this is a 2-month review, so it's just a couple of days past 2 months for me. We've got about 3,000 miles on the car, so we're doing about 1,500 a month. I think that's low for where we'll be for the year, because we tend to drive it just a little bit more in the winter, but so far it's still the best car we've ever owned. So I'm cruising to the gym right now, and I was just thinking about this on the way over. Like, I'm making a quick run in the middle of my work day. I'm taking a break just to get a change of scenery. This trip right now, I'm on cruise control. I'm just letting the car cruise along. Will cost me less than 50 cents. I think I covered this in a previous video, but the electricity I'm using is about 50 cents. In my BMW X5, this is about $3.50, $4 trip, depending on gas prices. And I did this often, so it's much less expensive to operate than a traditional car. Now, I had to buy the car, but certainly, I was in a position to buy a car. So, what do I think about it? What are some of the things, or why do I think this is the best car? Why do we love it? Why does my wife love it so much? So the first thing is the acceleration. So I'm on cruise control here. I'm going to take this off for a second. I drifted slightly to the side, doesn't like it. So we're going to go 1001, 1002. So I went from 42 to 62 in 2 seconds, maybe a little bit less, because I'm not sure my voice and my rhythm covered that well. But the acceleration is just crazy, and having that acceleration when you want to get around somebody, or you want to get ahead to make a turn, or really, it's certainly fun. That's a challenge, right? That is something that you want to do all the time, and so it's both the funnest part, and it's something you want to just be cautious about, not just for safety reasons, also for tire reasons, power reasons, all those things. That's certainly one of the fun things. A couple other things I think I did a written post, and I'm not sure exactly what I said, but some of the other things I love is that everything on here is set up to my profile. So my profile is here, and there's a couple other people listed, but everything from the seats to how the headlights work to the display. Like, I have the display set here for percentage because I like that. My wife has it in miles. She seems to like that. It's just fantastic to be able to do that. The connectivity with my phone is rock solid in terms of Bluetooth. The key works. For example, I'm going to the gym and I'll carry this phone inside and nothing else, whereas I used to have to carry keys with me from other cars, and so I love that I can just do that. These buttons and these rollers make it convenient for me to do a lot of things. I can press this one to do voice control, and the voice control is far beyond any other car I've had. Now, certainly, I think other modern cars are getting better, but this is good. What else do I love about it? It's smooth ride. It feels like a luxury car, but it's got all this space, and it's quick to go down the road. This roof, if you haven't seen the roof, is fantastic. There's nothing to see up there in the sunny blue skies of Colorado, but it is a glass roof that lets me see the whole world. It didn't get too hot at the end of the summer here on 90-degree days. It's fantastic. The temperature controls are great. Like, we set the auto often, but then we can also get instant heat here in the winter as it's starting to get cold in Colorado. The heat pump means I'm getting heat right away. The seat heaters are fantastic. Being able to set the controls, for example, from inside the gym, I can start preheating or pre-cooling the car before I come outside. I haven't done that a lot, but certainly there were some very hot 95-degree days where I did want to do that, so the car was a little bit cooler. And I have done that once now in the winter as it's getting colder. We had a day that was about 32, I think, and it was humid. So I set the heater on just as I was walking out of the gym, and by the time I got in the car, it was nice and comfortable there. So that's great. Navigation is fantastic, and especially being able to voice and say I want to navigate to this place, and it just sets it up, and because it's always connected and live, that's great. The other thing I love is this energy display. So I'll do a post on how this looks, but it's become a little bit of a game to me to see how much or how little energy I can use on my daily drives around town to just keep things going on. And then, of course, I'd also say the data. Like I've got to do a post on Tesla Mate, which I have set up, but all the data I get in terms of how the car is running, where I'm going, all those things are absolutely amazing. So it's fun, it's great. The practical side, the cost is good. Maintenance has been zero, though for any new car I'd expect maintenance to really be zero right now. The fact that I can plug it in at home and I always have a full tank or a full charge when I leave is fantastic, and I can control that. I typically go to 83%, but the fact that it's always charged when I leave is great. So I don't ever get partway through a journey and need to stop for gas or worry about stopping for gas before I come home. Matter of fact, I went to the gas station on a trip recently in a rental car for the first time in 2 months since I got this car. So that was kind of amazing. Downsides. So let me set this up. Actually, cruise control. Actually, I'll set up autopilot. So now it's driving. It's restricted to 45 miles an hour. So it runs at lower speeds. It only goes 5 miles over the speed limit if you've set that. I think once I'm above 55, it'll actually go 10 or so above if I wanted. But the autopilot is interesting. Like, it works well in certain situations. This isn't typically where you want to do it because I'm in the city. I do have a median. You want to have a median there because it's not, well, more other drivers you worry about on these things. But autopilot is nice on the highway that it just keeps me from drifting side to side. And since I've had it, I've noticed how many other people in their lanes drift side to side constantly, especially when they're looking at their phones doing something. Here, I'm pressing lightly on the right side of the wheel just to keep pressure on the wheel, but it is driving. Now, you have to pay attention because it doesn't slow for stoplights. It will slow for that car in front of me. But that curve, it's a little sharp, but not super sharp. In many other cars, I've taken that curve at 45 miles an hour. Autopilot cuts off on that curve. So that's one of those weird things. This curve right here, I'm about to go around, there's a car in front of me, but if there wasn't, with this truck coming up here, as this truck would turn in this curve, both cruise control and autopilot would freak out slightly and brake. And they might brake from 47 to 37 very quickly, even though those cars had gone ahead of me or that car was in the other lane. So I think that both the cruise control and the autopilot they're immature in how they manage things. They just don't do quite the job I'd expect. There are a few places that phantom brakes, and it is fairly consistent. So I've started to just be really cautious in where I use cruise control and autopilot. Cruise control doesn't seem to be driven by distance here like some other cars. And I wrote a little bit about this in the post, so you can check that out. I don't know if it's unsafe, but it's bordering on that. Not because of me, I know what to expect, but because cars around me wouldn't expect braking. So if, in this case, right, I'm on a straight road here, but if there were a car right behind me and I was going around a curve with nobody there and this car started to brake, somebody might hit me from behind because they wouldn't expect that. The same thing has happened. I've had a car in front of me merge off the highway, and they get out of this lane, so I still have a lane like this ahead of me straight. This car will brake because it sees that person in the other lane. I've had cars on curves like this curve coming up ahead of me that they curve into me, so they appear so briefly they're right in front of me, but they're in a different lane, right? Because I would be moving out of their way. The car still brakes as though we're in the same lane, I think because they're directly ahead of me. So that's a disconcerting behavior because it's inconsistent with how everybody else drives. Some of the other things, like there's a stoplight here, but cruise control stops and slows down at these things, and then it starts with the car in front of you. It's far too timid to start speeding up. I don't know if the model is trained to worry about the cars not speeding up or shifting gears and jerking and slowing down, but this car has such great torque that we should be able to match the speed of the car in front of me easily, and then emergency brake. The other thing is that cruise control will brake on a bunch of these hills. I don't use autopilot here, but on this hill, sometimes as I'm coming up on the crest, it will brake unnaturally, right? I've seen people, certainly might let off the gas coming up a hill and slow down slightly, but it will actually brake way more than I would expect going over the hills, and it beeps. And so it's both annoying and it feels slightly unsafe if there was somebody following behind me. These roads that I drive like this, there often could be people right behind me because, well, most people suck at driving, especially in the US. And so they would be too close, and an unexpected brake or unnatural brake might cause me trouble. So the reactions and the training of Autopilot and cruise control feel poor for the state of driving in the US overall. This kind of road I wouldn't use Autopilot on because there's a tendency to be more to the middle of the road, and I find that uncomfortable because as I'll drive on these roads, I watch people drift over and back as they look at their phones or the radio or whatever. So that I don't really like. The other thing I don't like here is that there's auto high beams on this car, and it's proven less useful for me out in the country. For example, it works pretty well like here, like it sees another headlight and it switches back and forth pretty quickly. But with the hills, sometimes it doesn't get enough light, so it doesn't switch, or it's getting light reflecting off the road. For example, gravel roads have a very white color as opposed to this dark asphalt, and so the lights will never switch to high beams. And for me, driving out in the country with deer and animals, and you want high beams more often, and so that's disconcerting. As I'm going up a hill, it never switches to high beams. So on my profile, I've actually turned off auto high beams because I just find it to be not reliable enough for me to use. What else? I'm not sure. I think there's anything else that I don't like. I have had a couple times the Sentry will catch somebody walking by the car and it notifies me that there was an event, but then it doesn't allow me to do the viewer. Somewhere the selection won't work, if I press the notification. And at the same time, the Sentry notification on the top of the screen, you should be able to long press that and get the viewer available. And sometimes I don't get that, and that is, in fact, well, just annoying because I haven't found another menu item that would let me actually do that thing. The cameras are fantastic. The notification here, like it's telling me how close I am, the auto hold. So if I just let off the gas or let off the accelerator, the car brakes and stops, and then it holds at stoplights. What else? So if I press this, I should be able to get the viewer. So I get that now. It says viewer, but there's times where I don't have this. I only get Sentry mode, which is, kind of annoying. Other than that, I think it's a fantastic car. It's fun to drive. It's enjoyable. Being able to set the temperature, being able to leave my dogs in here in the summertime, for example, I can put it on dog mode and it will hold the temperature here for the dogs and prevent them from overheating. And then there's a big message here that, once I leave, it would say, don't worry, the owner's coming back. This is the temperature, so that people don't worry about the dogs. All those things are just kind of great and fun. This car is a $52,000 car. I think 54 now with price raises. You're now talking about a car that's slightly above average, because the average car in the US now is $40,000. We've added some accessories in here, and I'll talk about those at some point. I love the sunglass holders here. There's one that's not in use right now. I love the sound system. It's fantastic. And overall, I enjoy getting in this car and going places. I actually have not driven the BMW since I picked up this car. My wife runs errands in it, and she has some of her stuff in it. So there are a few times I thought about it, but I didn't take it. I haven't taken it to the airport. I've taken, I think, 3 or 4 trips since I got it, and I've taken the old beater car, mostly so it just doesn't get scratched or something, and probably continue to do that. And less worried about charge, though. We were in Europe for 10 days. I would worry, I think, about the charge at the airport if we'd have done that. I liked the controls here. I can open the trunk if I just press the button. You know, the trunk in fact will open, and I see it here, and then I can close it here. Certainly some cars have that capability as well, but it's kind of a nice visual thing here that I have. I think it's still a neat experience. It definitely feels more like a car after a few months of driving it, but definitely the paradigm is much different than other cars. Having the screen here and not having the controls, as I've given people rides, like they talk about, there's nothing here, there's no speedometer or anything, and I don't miss it. You know, for me, glancing to here to see the speed is an easy thing to do, and you get used to it. The 1 foot pedal driving, because I have the braking, where does it set to? It says so standard acceleration, comfort, and it holds there. The regen here, for the most part, as I drive around town, I don't hit the brakes, and, because I just let it slow, and I've learned how to let it slow to stop behind somebody. That works really well. I have hit the brakes a few times when the stoplight changes, somebody stops more suddenly. The car will do beep and do the avoidance thing, but it's very easy to get used to. And more importantly, I've switched to the old Suburban we have for going to fill up gas cans or go to the airport. I drove a rental car. It's no problem switching back to accelerator plus brake as opposed to just accelerator here. That's been an easy thing for me to do, is go back and forth. Like, I was surprised at that, but it was pretty easy to do. So far, I'm glad I got the car. I really enjoy it driving around. I like the economics of operating it. I like that I don't have to worry about oil changes, because I've got to change UTV, ATV, and oil in the Suburban, and it's a messy job. And if I pay for it, it's time and money then, and so not having to worry about that thing is kind of cool here. I think I really don't see a lot of downsides to this car. There's some quirks with the auto steer, autopilot, and the cruise control. I wish they would expect the car to react and do things and not predict things. So going up over a hill, nobody I know slows down on these hills. You could argue it's safe or unsafe, but you expect the road to be clear there. And if it's not, you would emergency brake, and that's what the car should do. Instead, it kind of gets worried when it can't see and stops. The following distance, I think, sometimes is a little funny, and so I do think they could have integrated radar into the autopilot and better made judgment, because relying on cameras is flawed. My eyes are flawed. I don't always see things, especially when there's light coming, and so relying on just cameras and not having backup that wouldn't be in the visible spectrum seems like a mistake to me. What else would I say? I've had a couple updates, rebooted the car. That works fine. Connectivity on LTE, where I am in Southeast Denver, is hit and miss, right? Like, if I park here and I would look at the web, well, let's just do that, because I could just do that, is I could say, give me, I don't know what website I have up here, but it's slow. Oh, I have my Tesla Mate. So this is a little bit slow to pop up and load. Once it goes, it'll actually give me, here is the overview of the car right now. So 81%, that's where all I am. But if I were to say, one of the things I do, like, sometimes I get somewhere, I'm checking the scores. Let's go to ESPN. 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 6, 7. Right, significantly slower than my phone. We were parked last night having a coffee and trying to run YouTube on here, and the video stuttered a little bit as we got going. So the connectivity is mixed. For music, like Spotify and stuff, fantastic. Video stuff, you could argue whether that matters a lot. I don't know. I haven't spent a lot of time in the car like some Tesla owners when I'm not driving. I mean, it's a tool for me to get from point A to point B. It's enjoyable to drive in the car, but it's still a tool. What else? Anything else? I don't know. I'm getting used to the fact that, like, this is up right now, And really, to leave the car like I'm gonna go to the gym, I just press the button and leave. And this stuff is still running. Music would still be playing. And it was very unnatural at first. I would think I need to press something to turn it off, but to just get up and leave worked. Even more weird is I would get in the car, and really when I get in the car, all I need to do is change gears, right, forward or reverse, and go. And it always took a beat, and both my wife and my son were like, yeah, it's weird. You don't have to initiate something to start and stop. But I'm getting used to that. It's kind of fun. I almost feel like there's a Louis C.K. routine where I dropped a rental car at LAX, and it starts rolling down the road, and I just get out and leave. And that's what I almost feel like, even though the car will is stopped and all that stuff. If I open the door, it actually goes into park, which is both not cool, right? Because on the ranch, there's times where I might have slowed down to pick something off the ground, and I'm trying to creep forward and get it. And so with the driver's door open, it doesn't like that. I guess it's a safety feature. That's good. The car overall has gotten me driving slower in a lot of places, because I'll set the cruise control and just have it go a little slower, and because it's slow to speed up and stuff, I think I end up cruising at a slightly slower speed than I might if I would depended on my foot too often. At the same time, it has the crazy acceleration if you need it. Going 0 to 20 or 40 to 60 or 60 to 80 getting on the highway is just instantaneous, and it's fantastic to do that. The one thing I think I thought was weird, and I'll try to do a video and duplicate it, is that I was going home, and there was some stuff in the road, on a 2-lane road, and so I crept over to the right side, and the car started beeping saying, hey, get off it, and I could feel the steering wheel move, try to keep me on the road. Now there's a foot and a half of shoulder, so I wasn't in danger of running off the road. I was kind of just riding the line. But after a bit of time, it actually turned off the lane avoidance features because it said it was unsafe. And to me, that's almost the opposite of what you want, because while I understand turning off autopilot, the lane avoidance thing, if I'm struggling to keep on, for people that might have had a few drinks, or maybe they've had medicine and not feeling good, or they're tired, even if I were to drift off, I want that enabled to keep trying to keep me safe. So I think that's a philosophical difference in things overall. But it's something worth talking about. All right, a kind of a sharp edit here. The video cut off. I had a phone call. It kind of cut me off. But in any case, I think what I was wanting to say is that I'm on this road. I'm going to cruise over here a little bit and ride this line for a second. And I get corrective steering applied. Right, there's a note there that it's trying to do that. I had to do this recently, right, where there was stuff in the middle of the road. And so I was kind of doing this, and then I got this message: lane departure avoidance features unavailable, right? And while you think intuitively, maybe initially you go, that makes sense. You're not driving well, so we don't want you to depend on these features. But honestly, you could be not feeling good. You could be getting tired, or God forbid, something medical happened and you're hurting. Certainly, people that might have had too much to drink might do that as well. And the last thing we want to do is stop delayed avoidance features. Like, we want that, like that guy was already drifting over, you can see, right? Like on autopilot, I would tend to drive, the car would tend to drive here, which I don't like. I like to be this way more often than not. But if you're struggling to drive, that's when we want those safety features available. So having Tesla turn this off is really, I think, a poor decision. I think autopilot is a little different than that, because then you really are leaning on those features. But this is an accidental feature. And in my case, it was actually on this road up here, and there was a bunch of construction stuff they were doing, and so they had it in the middle of the road. And so I needed to be over a little bit for safety reasons. The cones were kind of doing this, because actually somebody had hit a few of them. And so I was on that sideline for an extended side, even though, as you can see, there's a little bit of, there's a foot and a half over there where I can actually ride if I needed to on the line. In this case, though, me riding on that line had the car get upset, which I don't like. But other than that, this is still a fantastic car. I really enjoy driving it around. It's fun. It's nice to be able to have the instant acceleration if you need it. It's nice to have instant heat here in Colorado. And it's nice that overall it has some good features, like it starts to brake if I let it get a little too close, those kinds of things. But here's one of those examples. If I set the cruise control, so I've set it at 47 on a 41. It's tracking behind this car. It's keeping me, I think I'm set at 4 car lengths away. I forget what I've set it to, but it seems to be tracking all right. It's slowing down as this idiot is slowing down on these hills. But one of the things that again I complain, look at that drift on that car, is going up these hills, it will start to brake at times. Now this is a fairly gradual hill here, but some of these hills on this road and some of the places in Colorado are steeper, and those are really annoying. So anyways, overall, it's still the best car I've ever driven. I like it more than most cars. Certainly, I think it's the most expensive car I've bought. If I were to buy another new car these days, it's not way out of line, and it feels more like a luxury car that would be much more expensive with the computer on wheels feel. It's a new paradigm. So my 2-month review is I still love the car tremendously, and I enjoy driving it every day rather. And I look for excuses to drive it here and there just to go and enjoy life. So if you have questions, let me know. Tell me if there's things you'd like to see, experiences for me. Not try to be an expert. I have no promotions on the channel. It's more my experiences with this new kind of car, this electric car that's different than anything else. So hopefully you've enjoyed this review.